Welcome back to Tech Tuesday on All Sides. I'm your host, Ann Fisher. Governor Mike DeWine last week canceled school for the rest of the school year. That means that kids can stay connected to their schools via computer if they have one. Warren Buckleitner is an educational psychologist. He reviews children's interactive media. He's taught at the preschool and elementary level and is now a college professor. He's founding editor of Children's Technology Review, a longtime guest on Tech Tuesday. Welcome back to the show, Warren.
Good to be with you, Ann.
You recently participated in a project with other educators that looks at the good news, bad news scenario for kids in the pandemic. What's the good news?
Well, the good news is that the entire world's education system was shoved into the future in about a month's time, or actually a few weeks, because of a little tiny germ. It's funny that a microscopic size thing could accomplish what 20 years of in-service couldn't do. And so all of a sudden, all of us educators are going, hey, this stuff's real. And amazingly, the internet is surviving. And, at least where I am using a standard cable modem, I'm able to teach. And so it's been a real wake-up call for all educators.
But the downside of this?
The big downside is that a lot of people, and I know people personally, and also some of my own students don't have the resources, the bandwidth, or the computers to access the education. And the other part of that is there's a whole category of educators who are just not going. They're not willing to, and librarians too. I mean, pretty much. Lots of people who just don't want to make that jump into the digital, and this is really separating and shining a stark light on the digital divide, those who have resources and those who don't.
I'm surprised you mentioned librarians because that's been, futurized long before a lot of other aspects of education.
Well, I'm a trustee of my own library, and I've been urging them to start doing more things remotely. They are in some regard, but I've seen other libraries really jumping into the Facebook Live story hours and sort of embracing the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Librarians vary greatly, and I know some of the libraries in Ohio from way back, and I know their libraries are really thinking about how they can serve their citizens. But I mean, a lot of people are just, a lot of libraries are closed and dark, and but we really have to start taking seriously the fact that internet access and laptop access are a basic need, just like, I'm calling it the needs to be added to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Food, shelter,
toilet paper, Wi-Fi.
Well, it is an issue that I've talked about just this week, I believe, with the Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, talking about the fact that where broadband exists is a function of profitability, not, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, I mean, it's those who don't have it know it right now, and it's you're basically, not only do you don't have the access to things like schools or reading, but you don't have entertainment and fun. And another thing that's sort of been washed away is the notion of the screen time. Before March, it was like screen time is a bad thing and kids are on it too much. And now it's like you're lucky if you have access to a nicely stocked iPad. And, as I was writing in my piece for the Joan Gans Cooney Center, that I was well prepared. I just happen to have an Oculus Quest in my suitcase because I always have it. And I had two iPads with about 12,000 apps on them. And so, when my grandson, being with my grandson was like, whoa, we're all set. We're ready to go. And the bandwidth was good. So, but we really have to, as educators and librarians and just people who make decisions, we have to start really thinking about the people who don't have this access. And that's where libraries and schools have to step up now more than ever before.
You teach at the college level. How has that been going? I guess the semester's just about wrapped up for you, right?
Yeah, we have another week, and then we do our finals, and it's been an amazing process. First, I want to dispel any myths out there that it's not is that we're working harder. I know my department is working harder than we ever have worked. We had to retool all of our classes and make them work, with things like Zoom and Google Meet and so on. I'm down here in Georgia, so I'm teaching my students 700 miles away. And the first class I did by Zoom, I was terrified. But at the end of the class, I realized this is going to work. And I stayed down here because, I'm kind of worried about moving. It's like if I move, something will break. I had got this set up. And but one of the classes I was going to teach was called, IMM, which is our department, hits the road. So we were all going to get in physical vans and drive to cool places. But I had to turn that into a virtual field trip class. So how do you do virtual field trips? Well, I was able to patch my Oculus Quest into my iPad into Zoom, so I could actually take my students to places like Peru or the Antarctic and so on, using Zoom's free National Geographic VR app. And then there's a great tour of Anne Frank's house, or the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. So we did that. So anyway, it's been really cool.
What kind of feedback are you getting from the students? What do they think?
Well, you'll have to ask them. We just did our evaluation.
Oh, so you haven't seen them yet?
My students are very upfront. I know that for me, I'm really excited about it. And I think what's going to happen is next semester, hopefully we'll all go back to sort of at least a semi-physical form. I know we're all hoping that we get through this. That we'll be better teachers. And I'm also one of the class. I'm a senior thesis advisor, so I've been finding that I can use Zoom to meet personally with students and dig deeper with. I'll have them share their screen, and we can really get into the nuts and bolts of their project in a way I couldn't do before. And so, in some ways, I think what those of us who survive this, the teachers, will be better by combining the real in person with the virtual. So I think it's good. A lot of healthy things are happening.
I kind of wondered, a friend of mine is due at Ohio State. If you're over 60, you can take classes for free. I guess it's kind of like auditing a class. And they're also able to do that with Zoom classes now. And my friend wondered if some students don't participate in the same way when it's Zoom versus in class. I was the Rorschach kid who always had their hand in the air myself. How irritating would that be on Zoom?
It is a whole different psychology, and I found that one of the things you have to do right now is be a counselor, because in New Jersey in particular, we're hit pretty hard, and I need to give the students a chance just to, say how you doing and share. I've also found class breaks to be important, and that was a surprise to me. So I've always given the class just a physical break, but what I've noticed is students are chatting informally, and I think they really need that time to just talk about what video game they're playing, or my cat's driving me crazy, or just any kinds of things that they want to talk about. And so we need to be very conscious right now of making sure they get that time, because it's really sad for students who miss. You never thought we'd be at a time when kids are just longing to go to school. For college students, that's particularly tough right now.
And have you found that that's across the board easier, or does virtual classrooms, do they lend themselves more to things like teaching a class on virtual field trips, which sounds like a blast, but what if it's something a little more technical?
Right. There's a lot of creative things going on. I have a friend who teaches at Princeton on nuclear, oh gosh, some sort of genetics, and I saw him doing using a laser, shooting it through a glass of water on the wall to illustrate how light diffraction works. And teachers are being incredibly creative to try to bring some of those things to their students, but it's really tough. Our department is both, it's a good thing and a bad thing in that we're all sort of geeks anyway, and we're digital designers and so on. So our students are pretty set up and they know how to use stuff, but we have classes in fabrication and so on and obviously my field trip class is going to be kind of different. We can't replace that. And so if for those people who are wondering, our physical college campus is necessary, the answer is absolutely, because there's just so much interpersonal dynamics that you can't replicate with, over something like Zoom.
So you said that it's shoved education into the future. That's the good thing. The down thing is not everyone has the bandwidth and equipment to be in that future together. Do you think that it's actually, have we turned a corner with education now? Because there were lots of naysayers and lots of skeptics about online education and that kind of thing. Have we turned a corner? What's the next step?
Yeah, I think we have definitely turned a corner. I think that most teachers are going to come through this because they don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. And we'll see that the school and education and pedagogical experience is different. There will be a pre-COVID and a post-COVID, a pre-2020. I think, we've tilted into the future involuntarily and there's no going back. And so that's why Maslow's hierarchy of needs is important. We need to, policymakers and people above our pay grade or my pay grade need to start really thinking about, we have to take care of people, and we need to give them the tools they need, not just for watching Netflix, but for surviving and getting medical information and going to school and making a living. Because I can make a living, I can get a paycheck remotely because I had already had the skill set and I was lucky. But there are many people who just can't, and they don't have a paycheck. So we have to be making them, thinking about how they can start to adapt to a post-2020 scenario.
Warren Buckleitner, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it. Happy last week of school, and hopefully talk to you again soon, because we're going to need to talk about apps for kids. I think parents have basically, they're on their last nerve, and they're going to need some help.
We'll get through it, Ann.
Okay.
I know we'll get through it.
That's Warren Buckleitner. He is editor of Children's Technology Review. Thanks again for joining us. We have more Tech Tuesday coming up with Russell Holly from Android Central, so stay with us. This is All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News.